After nearly 2 decades in prison, Brian Rattigan, a convicted murderer, has re-emerged as a prominent figure in Dublin's criminal underworld, particularly in the drug trade. Despite earlier speculation of reduced criminal activity, recent reports suggest that Rattigan and his associates have become key players, prompting heightened attention from law enforcement, notably the Garda, to dismantle their operations. Brian Rattigan, known as the King Ratt in Dublin's criminal circles, rose to prominence during the Crumlin-Drimnagh feud, initially engaging in petty crimes like car theft and street-level drug dealing with his teenage friends. Over time, their small group transformed into the primary drug suppliers in South Dublin, signifying a notable evolution in their criminal endeavors. Let's delve into it. In a pivotal event on March 9, 2000, Garda launched a raid on a hotel room at the Holiday Inn, located on Pierce Street in Dublin. The raid uncovered a bustling drug operation, triggering the escalation of the Crumlin-Drimnagh feud. Within the room, 3 young men barely out of their teens were caught in the act of cutting cocaine. The profits from this illicit activity were intended to be divided among members of gangs hailing from both Crumlin and Drimnagh, with Brian Rattigan among them. The seizure included 2 kilograms of cocaine and 49,000 ecstasy tablets, resulting in the arrest of the 3 individuals involved. The pressure intensified for all 3 men following their apprehension, as they were essentially caught in the act. However, there arose a perplexing situation when one of them, Declan Gavin, a 20-year-old senior member of the gang, was unexpectedly released without charges after just 2 days. This sudden turn of events raised suspicions among the group. Some doubted the official explanation that Gavin's departure from the room prior to the Garda raid was the sole reason for his release. Instead, they speculated that Gavin may have collaborated with law enforcement, particularly since the other 2 individuals faced serious charges related to cocaine and ecstasy possession, with intent to distribute, ultimately resulting in their conviction and lengthy prison sentences. Amidst the absence of concrete evidence, certain members of the gang swiftly labeled Gavin as a traitor, alleging his involvement as an informant. This accusation fractured the gang into 2 opposing factions, one led by Brian Rattigan and his brother from Cooley Road in Drimnagh, and the other spearheaded by Freddie Thompson from Loretto Road in Maryland. Notably, the latter faction eventually merged with other criminals based in Crumlin, effectively becoming the primary suppliers for the Kinahan cartel in the South Inner City area. The Crumlin-Drimnagh feud claimed its first fatal casualty in the form of Declan Gavin, a close associate of Freddie Thompson. In August 2001, Gavin was brutally stabbed outside an Abracadabra fast food restaurant in Crumlin by a masked assailant who swiftly fled the scene in a getaway car driven by an accomplice. During the subsequent court proceedings, it emerged that Brian Rattigan, amidst celebrating his brother's birthday, received word that Gavin was outside the restaurant, making him a prime suspect in the eyes of investigators. Thompson vowed retaliation for Gavin's killing. Tragically, the violence escalated further when Joesph Rattigan, Brian's 18-year-old brother, fell victim to a retaliatory attack in July 2002. He was fatally shot on Cooley Road in Crumlin. This event marked a turning point as it catalyzed a string of additional fatalities in the ongoing feud, claiming the lives of 15 more individuals. Brian Rattigan himself narrowly escaped death when he was targeted in a shooting incident. He managed to evade his assailants by leaping from an upper window of his residence. However, his luck eventually ran out when he was apprehended in 2003 after exchanging gunfire with Garda during a chase. This, coupled with a series of other violent and drug-related offenses, resulted in Rattigan receiving a 13-year prison sentence. In December 2009, Brian Rattigan was convicted of the murder of Declan Gavin, adding a mandatory life sentence to the 13-year prison term he had received in 2003. Many in the neighborhood had hoped that this, along with the killing of drug dealer Anthony Cannon, would bring an end to the feud. Cannon's death marked the 15th gang-related killing in Dublin in 2009. However, the peace was short-lived, as the feud once again made headlines following 2 murders in quick succession. On September 24, 2012, a gunman invaded the home of 27-year-old Gerard Eglington in Portarlington, fatally shooting him in front of his 11-year-old stepdaughter and 1-month-old son. The following day, Declan O'Reilly, who had narrowly survived a previous attempt on his life, was gunned down while walking with his young son along Dublin's South Circular Road. Garda suspected that one of Freddie Thompson's close associates may have ordered these killings, further fueling the cycle of violence in the ongoing feud. In 2013, Brian Rattigan faced additional legal consequences when he was convicted of orchestrating a drug network from his prison cell in Portlaoise. This marked the first instance in the state's history of someone being found guilty of drug trafficking while incarcerated. Rattigan, known as King Ratt, was found to have held approximately €1 million worth of heroin for trading while serving his sentence. During a raid on his cell located on the prison's E-landing, Garda discovered Rattigan lying on his bed with a phone in his possession. Subsequent examination of the phone revealed incriminating text messages, wherein Rattigan made references to items labeled as half bars and nines, alongside names such as Jenko and MacGyver. These messages, coupled with a list and notes found within his cell, were determined by the court to constitute orders for drug transactions. As a result, Rattigan received an additional 17-year prison sentence for his involvement in drug-related activities while behind bars. In 2017, Brian Rattigan succeeded in his appeal to the Supreme Court regarding the 2001 murder of Declan Gavin. His conviction was overturned from murder to the lesser offense of manslaughter after he pleaded guilty. Consequently, his sentence was reduced to 9 years. After serving his time, Rattigan was released from Portlaoise Prison, Ireland's highest security facility, in August 2021. Upon his release, instead of being escorted by Garda, Rattigan was observed walking out of the prison by an armed member of the defense forces stationed on the roof. Notably, as he left, Rattigan wore a necklace adorned with a picture of his beloved younger brother, Joesph. Shortly after Brian Rattigan's release, Derek Delboy Hutch, the nephew of Jerry Hutch, was also freed from Wheatfield Prison. The two individuals were picked up in a hired go-car, which swiftly sped away after they boarded. High-ranking Garda officers expressed concerns about the release of these two individuals, as they were both known to have conflicts with members of the Kinahan cartel. This situation posed significant security challenges and complexities in certain areas of the city. Upon his release, Brian Rattigan wasted no time in leaving the country. Over the past year, Garda sources have reported sightings of him in the UK and Spain. Despite Rattigan's claims in court of being a reformed and law-abiding individual, his return to Dublin has marked his resurgence as a prominent figure in the city's criminal underworld. Recent high-value drug and weapon seizures linked to Rattigan have led Garda to believe that he has once again assumed a central role in the organized criminal landscape of the capital. Moreover, Rattigan and his gang are under investigation for their alleged involvement in 2 murders that occurred in 2022, further intensifying law enforcement scrutiny on their activities. In September, Tony Dempsey fell victim to a fatal assault in the North Inner City, perpetrated by an associate of Brian Rattigan. His body, discovered a week after the attack, was found in a flat at Kevinberry House on Coleraine Street, with residents unaware of the grim discovery as they came and went. Earlier in June, Carey was subjected to a targeted shooting outside a Kilmainham hotel, marking the 3rd attempt on his life within the span of about a year. Suffering multiple gunshot wounds, Carey was left in a critical condition, and despite receiving medical attention at the scene, he succumbed to his injuries a few weeks later. It's reported that during his treatment, Carey implicated Rattigan as the orchestrator of the attack, adding another layer of complexity to the ongoing investigation. The primary suspects in the attempted murder of Carey are individuals associated with Brian Rattigan. Carey has been entangled in a long-standing feud with Rattigan, and also with the West Dublin faction known as the Family. While there's no direct suspicion of Rattigan's personal involvement, detectives are exploring the possibility of his role in orchestrating the attack, or if it was carried out by members of the West Dublin criminal network. If investigators' suspicions are substantiated, it underscores Rattigan's resurgence as a notable figure in the criminal underworld. According to Garda, Brian Rattigan is believed to primarily reside in Spain, where he oversees a criminal enterprise operating across West Dublin, Dublin 12, and the South Inner City. That concludes today's video. What are your thoughts on the topic discussed? Feel free to share in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more updates on future videos.